You know, I could be talking about something I actually moderately enjoyed right now. Like the Garfield movie. Contrary to popular opinion, apparently. I found some of the slapstick enjoyable, and I liked that you could recognize some of the original poses from the comics. Yeah, Chris Pratt's voice didn't make that good of a Garfield voice, and I don't know why they gave him daddy issues. I don't know what was up with the white cat's, like, mood necklace, but I actually have to talk about the Tarot movie, don't I? This movie, in my subjective opinion, was not good. This was caca and wee whiz bad.
Why does it smell like caca and wee whiz in here?
I'm a spiritual person, if you couldn't tell from my basic white girl tapestry and my bookshelf full of witchcraft books. Here's a couple of the books I have. I also happen to do tarot readings. Here's my card deck that I primarily use. I take my tarot pretty seriously as I subscribe to the belief of animism, and animism can be defined as the belief that objects, creatures, and places all possess a distinct spiritual essence. So I hold the personal belief that my cards have a spirit, you could say. And because of that, I hold a certain respect for my tarot cards. And this movie just kind of takes tarot and just goes, oh my gosh, it's scary, it's a scary thing, the people use these in witchcraft, they use the deck in witchcraft, look, it's so scary, it has scary art. Let me just get you a close-up of this little guy here. Look at him. Look at him. How could you not love him? He's kind of just the whole reason I bought that deck. He's adorable. The one thing I will say for this movie is the deck design is actually really cool. I like the hand-painted watercolor look of it. That was nice. I did like that. I know I shouldn't take this movie's dumb interpretation of tarot too seriously, but I just can't. This is what I do. I'm like a buzzard with a dead deer on the highway. Whenever a company uses something that I'm personally interested in, I have to pick it apart piece by piece to see if they did a good job interpreting it or not. I have to. The parasites in my brain tell me that I have to. So the movie starts out with a group of college-age friends in a mansion they rented in the woods. They run out of alcohol, so they go to look in the spooky old mansion that clearly doesn't have any alcohol for some geniuses. They find the least promising looking door, and this guy really just says, this looks promising.
Seems promising.
Spider-Man's friend says something spider-related.
Definitely spiders here.
Get it, guys? They didn't find any beer, but they did find some occultic stuff. Paxton says tarot.
Never mind. These are tarot cards anyway.
Actually, Paxton, it's pronounced tarot. Who let me make videos? I'd also like to say the lineup of characters that we have here is incredibly dry. We don't know anything about these guys except that they're college age, allegedly friends, these two broke up, and it's this one's birthday. But back to the movie itself, Haley gets uncomfortable and doesn't want to do a reading for anybody, but birthday girl over here says, I don't care, it's my birthday.
Haley, it's my birthday.
Because that's always a good reason to pressure your friends into doing something that they're spiritually uncomfortable with. But nonetheless, Haley caves in and they go upstairs to do the tarot reading. And cut to the most out-of-pocket song they could have chosen for this scene that completely took me out of the immersion. Haley once again voices that she's not comfortable doing this, but birthday girl again brings up that it is in fact her birthday.
I can't remember, did I mention that it was my birthday?
But it's okay, she's not gonna be around for much longer. But anyways, to the actual tarot part of the tarot movie. The kind of spread that they used here is the Zodiac spread that include the 13th card in the middle. And I really hate to say it, but they didn't do that bad of a job with some of the readings. White Boy Summer personified over here I think had the most accurately portrayed use of the Hermit reversed. And Birthday Girl's reading was a close runner-up with the High Priestess reverse that was fairly on point. I don't really get the Magician reading, though, with the Bag of Tricks, because that's just not really what the card itself represents. It's a very literal reading, and I think it only works because of the art on the card. Like, I think if I was to say the Magician's Bag of Tricks with this card right here, it wouldn't really work that well, because there's no bag, and that's also a bird. And I don't really want to get into Haley's reading, because I think I will actually blow a blood vessel if I think about it too hard.
Same thing it always says. Love's gonna be the death of me.
The dialogue in this scene is also very stiff, and it feels very rehearsed. And not in a good way. Really, the whole movie felt like this to me, just incredibly stiff, very, very rehearsed. Like, the dialogue just didn't feel like it had a lot of emotion in it.
I think you're trying to make sense of something and there's no sense to make.
It just felt like they were reading off of a script the whole time, if that makes sense. The actors probably did the best they could with what they were given, and I want to chalk it up more to a directing issue than an acting issue, because those actors were fairly good for what they were given. Another thing that bothered me here was how the whole cast got a card from the Major Arcana for their 13th card, just like how this movie was my 13th reason why. But it's just incredibly unrealistic, I suppose. A tarot deck is 78 cards, and the Major Arcana only takes up 22 of those cards, while the other 56 go to the Minor Arcana. It's not the biggest issue with the movie by far, but it's just very unlikely that this would happen for all of them. Except the spooky she died by the Minor Arcana because I guess no one cares about her and it wasn't in the budget to include another Major Arcana monster. Oh, and also this guy in the bathtub. Also, I wonder what would happen if you didn't do a Zodiac spread reading. What would happen if you did a past, present, and future reading? What would happen if you did a mind, body, and soul reading? Would she still come after you to kill you, or would she not know how to interpret that into her curse, and would she just, like, let it go and just be, like, grumpy about it? But I'm not gonna think about that too hard lest I give myself a brain bleed. They get all their tarot readings done, and they head back to their college campuses where Birthday Girl gets her head smashed in. Her girlfriend's absolutely distraught. Come on, tell me these two weren't gay. There's no heterosexual explanation for this kind of behavior. And Haley gives her the worst comfort in basically saying,
I watched her try treatment after treatment. And for me to make sense of things, I did so many readings.
yeah, you're sad over your girlfriend dying? I was sad when my grandma died, but there's nothing we could have done to change that, LMAO. Oh, and that's also her origin story for getting into tarot and her belief that we can't change fate and what's going to happen to us, so that's given in a slightly melodramatic backstory. And shortly after that, White Boy Summer gets hit by a train. I'd also like to point out something that this movie does every single time one of these characters dies, is it plays a edited, choppy, spooky version of Haley's reading over the scene. And I really hated this because to me this just screamed to the audience, you are not smart enough to figure out what's going on, so we need to spoon feed it to you to make sure that you get it. But anyways, after White Boy Summer dies is when the group gets together to put their one collective brain cell in a pot and try to figure out what's going on. Haley uses her divine Deus Ex Machina main character powers and figures out what's going on immediately.
It's fate. The readings.
And Grant, who lacks the divine voice of the writers in his head, says,
I think you're trying to make sense of something and there's no sense to make.
And Haley takes Spider-Man's friend's laptop to do some Googling and finds the first article on tarot readers and decides that the woman in that article losing her accreditation makes her more reliable.
Yeah, she's been discredited and is a total joke in the astrology community, so we all just stop wasting our time on this.
We should contact her.
Yeah.
We should contact her.
Yeah.
And they somehow find her address online and go to her house to find some answers. Spooky Lady tells them to piss off because there's a random group of teenagers on her property,
Hi. My friends and I found your website.
Go away.
but they bring up the tarot deck. So she lets them in and gives them a really basic rundown of what's going on.
The astrologer.
Some lady from years ago gave a guy a tarot reading. He didn't like it, so he killed her daughter. And then she got mad and bound her soul to the cards. I really don't know what she thought she was doing with this move, but he died in a bathtub with pentagrams on his hands. Sure, it worked. Did he get killed by a bathtub demon? Maybe. Also, once again, what would a past, present, and future reading look like with this deck? The kids decide to go back to the mansion and try to destroy the deck, but the car shuts down because of, Mercury retrograde?
Mercury's in retrograde.
And as we all saw in the trailer, the astrologer uses the Hangman game format to spell out run on the outside of the car in the condensation. And like any sensible person, she listens to the demon lady and takes off running down the bridge and gets yoinked up into the sky in a very anticlimactic way. So the group's in shock. Haley's blaming herself for this girl's death, and I guess for the emotional impact, every single character that dies has to have another one of the characters, like, blame themselves for their death. For the emotional impact. And Paxton decides to leave the safety of the group in favor of walking home alone by himself at night with an angry demon lady after him, leading to the longest, most drawn-out death of the movie that had way too much whimpering in it. Back to the group, Haley, Lesbian, and Grant decide to go back to the mansion and try to Google the best way to destroy the cards. They decide on fire, which is a smart decision until it doesn't work because the cards are fire resistant, I guess, and this movie just can't be over yet. So they invite Spooky Lady over, and Spooky Lady decides to try and summon the astrologer for some reason, and the astrologer just basically goes, "Nuh-uh," and kills her with the only minor arcana death of the movie. The lesbian gets got by the magician because she decided to try and climb inside a box as loudly as she could, which was just a perfect setup for the magician to just lock her in there and crank that and give us the only really disturbing death of the entire movie because he just sawed her in half right down the middle in front of an audience of demons, which was kind of spooky and disturbing. I also don't know why these keep thinking that hiding will do anything against this omnipotent demon being whose fate is now literally tied to theirs, and she already tracked them down from a mansion in the woods all the way to their college campuses. I don't know why they think hiding will help, but Haley gets plot armor and is able to hide in a closet perfectly fine because that works. That's good writing. Grant and Haley have a very shallow heart-to-heart in the meantime, where nothing really happens between them besides Grant getting yanked out of a second-story window. That was kind of funny. The astrologer turns into the death creature off of Haley's card, and Haley's able to hide from her because, yeah, that works. Something happened, Grant's not dead because this movie just can't be over yet, and he returns and saves Haley from getting got by death. So the astrologer decides that if yanking him out of the second-story window won't work, surely dragging him into a hell with a pit of demons will work, right? This made me laugh because this really doesn't make any sense. Like, not only does the astrologer have the power to shapeshift and interact with the physical world and kill a bunch of people, but she also has the power to open up a portal to hell with a bunch of demons. Like, how powerful is this lady? But while Grant is tied up with that, Haley decides to take the deck and do the astrologer's reading for her and, like, turn her curse back on her type of thing.
All of your cards are reversed. Your horoscope tells me you're in pain. You're hurt, but you won't allow yourself to heal.
Don't tell me we're doing just a typical, I know you. This isn't like you. This isn't the real you.
You're not you when you're hungry.
With like a centuries-old demon lady. But with the power of being an astrology girly, Haley defeats the astrologer, giving us the only really cool visual of the movie, and I guess setting her free to return to her daughter. Scot-free after killing all those people because she was hurting. But Grant and Haley walk out, triumphant, tired, and down a lot of friends. Guess who shows up? It's Spider-Man's friend! Spider-Man's friend shows up. Despite having the longest and most drawn-out death scene, he goes on to explain that his roommate literally just walked up and opened the elevator, and that just stopped his curse.
Paxton?
Hey, Todd.
That just stopped him from dying. The astrologer just vanished. I guess you could maybe explain this with Haley and Grant, like, taking priority, trying to destroy the deck, and the spooky lady summoning her, but I don't know why the astrologer wouldn't just kill Paxton quickly. I guess that would just ruin the effect of all the scaring she did up to that point. I don't know, that just wasn't very clear in the writing. But Haley ends the movie with a very triumphant line from her just saying, "F*** fate." Oh, get it, guys. It goes back to when she was trying to comfort the lesbian and saying that none of us can change our fate, but now she has a paradigm shift because of everything that happened and she defeated her fate. She just overcame fate, so f*** fate, I guess. Yeah, I just didn't really like this movie. It was incredibly lazy with the same cast of characters that we've seen in a dozen horror movies already. A young, dumb group of teens to young adults that all make bad decisions. The dialogue in this movie made me cringe because of how stiff it was. The only thing in this horror movie that looked like it had a ton of effort put into it was the tarot deck itself, which actually, in my opinion, looked really cool. Some of the monster designs were kind of cool, but I really didn't like the hangman because it was just Rake from Creepypasta with rope. That was it. This whole movie just felt incredibly cheap, soulless, and very much like a cash grab. And it was basically just if Anna Hallberg and Spencer Cohen just looked at a deck of tarot cards and just went, that's kind of spooky, right? And just built up a really basic, standard, safe horror movie plot line off of that idea. But you know what's a good horror movie with an interesting cast of characters, a really, really sick monster design, and an actually interesting emotional premise around it? The Ritual. If you want to watch the Tarot movie, just don't watch it. Go watch The Ritual instead. It came out in 2017 and I don't see a lot of people talk about it or give it enough love, and it's very much worth your attention because it actually had effort put into it. Go rent it on a streaming platform. Go watch that. Don't watch the Tarot movie. Go watch that. Alright, I'm done. Thank you guys for watching this video. I don't know if I'm gonna make movie reviews a frequent thing on this channel, but I kind of enjoyed it. So if you also had fun watching, maybe consider liking. I mean, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And don't subscribe. Don't subscribe. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that for little old me. Okay, goodbye. Did you guys notice that I like pulled out the tarot shirt for this? It was the only shirt at Hot Topic that didn't have just the death card on it and actually included art from the whole Major Arcana. I thought it was fitting for this video.